August 31st, year 8, at 7:11 a.m. The Boy in Blue, episode 42. Tonight was interesting. First off, I pimped out my phone with many pics and lots of music. And I ended up taking my bike to the club because Chris didn't arrive when he said he would. I saw Spanish John on the way, bracket Jonathan T, aka Johnny, I think, and bracket. He was headed to chill with his new boy, Jeremy was his name, I think. I parked next to Mirabar and walked all the way down the platforms. No one was there. I gave it some time, bounced, then came back. Bracket, maybe I was too early? End bracket. Chris and his mom arrived at the club soon after me, and Chris soon after realized he had forgotten his fitted baseball hat again. So I let him borrow mine for part of the night. When we were heading to the dance floor, I passed by a guy in blue, whose name I later found out was David, another Libra. His ensemble, his clothing, was very coordinated, and so I told him I liked his shoes. I smiled and wandered off. Chris and I danced, but for some reason I found half of my usual buoyant energy strangely misplaced. Also, my ears weren't too happy. Have club platforms' speakers gotten louder, or is it just me? Either way, the most noteworthy of being mentioned was that I decided to talk to the boy in blue and try to get him to dance. That eventually turned into me getting his number and Christian grinding on him. But the group hit it off. And later on that night, Chris and his mom were invited along to chill at Balloons with a now semi-drunk David and his friend Raina, who went there to see her girl. The other two got out of the car, and as David stepped out, he kissed me. Simple. It was a soft peck. It kind of made me want more. Blah, blah, blah. Drove away with Chris and his mom, took wrong exit. She dropped me off near Brown. I had to take a long walk to get back to my bike. I unlocked it and rode over to Balloons, where my bike just broke down right then and there and ceased to function, and texted David to come outside while I tried to fix my bike. We chilled there for a few hours, David relaxing with his head on my knee. He had a headache from all the alcohol, and me just rubbing his head. The girl he was with, Raina, eventually came out with some other girl, and they proceeded to hug and kiss up on one another, intermixed with arguing and having long, strong conversations that lasted as long as David and I chilled. Bracket, I didn't mind. Winky emoji, end bracket. Eventually, the taxi came, and I woke David up and sent him on the way with the girls. I think David drunkenly implied that he wanted me to take advantage of him. I thought about it, but decided that I wanted to get to know him better while he was sober rather than when he was drunk. The rest of the night, he texted me with pleasant messages, como, he likes me and wants to see me again. After that, the guy who stayed around talking to me while David was resting on my lap asked me if I needed a ride. I later found out he was a 42-year-old March 21st Pisces Aries cusp child, but Aries definitively. I parked my bike at the garage ahead of Mirabar, and after he sucked my dick and I jerked him off, I gave him my number and he gave me $20 and dropped me off at home. He told me he called me next week. Bracket. I understood the money, but it wasn't like that for me. The experience was good enough. The money was just frosting on the cake. What I didn't understand was if that meant he was trying to buy me like I was a cheap prostitute, or just being a nice, generous guy and expressing monetarily that he enjoyed our time together. In retrospect, I must also ask if public opinion thinks there's much of a difference. End bracket. I was relieved. Accepting his offer got me a very convenient and much-needed ride home. Ironic that I saw a black cat on the way to platforms and all this good stuff happened. I guess black cats are lucky for me then. Smiley face emoji or something. Bracket. Or maybe they aren't. I found David attractive, but don't think I ever got to chill with him again after that night. Maybe I should have taken advantage, quote unquote, of him when he had asked me to. My bike also popped that night, and that guy that dropped me off in the future on Rob's birthday, I saw him at a druggie bar. People seemed confused and bothered by him. So I leave it to you, the reader, to decide if I was lucky or unlucky that night. I mean, I did make it home safely and in one piece. September 2nd, entry 43. Denied. Denied is the name of a movie that bears strong similarities to my situation with Z. Bracket. I downloaded it, I'm going to recheck the statement, end bracket. September 21st at 1:17 p.m. Entry 44. Interested. It occurs to me that the reason why I'm so set on trying to have something with David is because being with him sort of makes me feel like when I was with Z. I can't describe the feeling really well, but all I know is that I didn't get that feeling with Victor. Victor was a lot like Z, but the emotions didn't match. We could have had a strong connection, but we didn't have much of one then. It was really just a temporary experiment with both of us, I guess. And with David, I get that feeling. And if we do get into something, then the connection would probably be palpable. But that's all I can say on it now. It's all based on a feeling and has nothing to do with convenience. Bracket, I'll say. I believe he lived in Fall River, New Bedford, or Boston, or something, which was a pretty inconvenient distance at the time. End bracket. October 11th at 11:40 p.m. Aggressive vibrations. Entry 45. OMFG. Quote unquote. Maybe a comical voice to start in, but I can assure you there is nothing funny in my tone. I was very upset. What was the problem? Juju had my bike and told me it got stolen. Usually I wouldn't have believed him, and I didn't really believe him this time when he first said it, but a few hours of waiting and a few people saying the wrong thing consistently would be enough to get to anyone. Fortunately, I had the willpower not to fuck him up right then and there, and yes, I did want to do something to him. But never more than I do now. I was planning on talking to his mom calmly and asking her to quote-unquote compensate me for my loss, but due to some strange and inexplicable timing, when I emerged frustratedly from the place I was in, Ada pointed out the guys, bracket Juju and the crew, end bracket. Or that she thought it was them, and it was, and I stalked them until I was sure it was, and upon noticing they still had my bike, felt a mixture of relief yet intense anger that my emotions had been played with like that. I stalked angrily over to them, grabbed my bike from Juju and said, "I won't be talking to you guys for a while," and bounced. When I got home, I was nearly shaking, I was so mad. But I didn't show that to my parents. I know it sounds like a joke, but when I got home, I've never been that mad in my entire life. I don't recall. And I think it's less because he played the joke on me than the fact that I had almost believed it and started taking actions against him. Bracket, actions that may have damaged and compromised our future relationship. End bracket. Basically, I began to act as if I had lost my bike, and my hand was being forced. As in a loss of control of the situation, which is apparently incredibly bad for me. Anyways, I grabbed some Chinese food, went upstairs, and vibrated in rage against the punching bag for a few seconds. It would have been longer, but I didn't want to have to explain to my parents why I was making so much noise, who were downstairs at the time. Bracket. I'm not quite sure what I meant by vibrating, quote unquote. It was either violent flailing or literally holding onto the punching bag, trying to calm myself down amidst intermittent bag stroking, heavy sighing, and punches of frustration. End bracket. Note to self. When angry, I have near perfect external control, but with slightly more energy and a darker, slightly edgy verbal tone. But my suppressed anger has a debilitating internal effect that acts beyond the immediate situation. When I start to come down from my anger, it may be good to have a strong form of sublimation. Today was good timing, though. When I first walked up to Ada's house, Z, Malik, and Juju strolled out, and when I first entered and left the house later that night, they were caught strolling by, just in the nick of time, oddly. I'm glad I got my bike back. Let's not let that happen again. End bracket. End entry.